The public sector catering most influential list isn't all about caterers, and I'm delighted that we're joined today by Minette Batters, President of the National Farmers Union, to give us some views from the very start of the farm to fork journey on some of the challenges facing public caterers today. Minette, who runs a tenanted family farm in Wiltshire, has made campaigning about British food and farming a key driver during her NFU presidency. And she is working now with the Public Sector Catering Alliance to explore ways to put more British food on the menus in schools, hospitals and prisons. Hello, Minette.
David, hello. Thanks so much for having me with you.
Okay. What, from your point of view, are the key challenges that face catering teams working in the public sector right now?
I think the challenges that you face are very much the challenges that we face. I mean, it is unprecedented cost inflation that I don't think any of us just ever thought could happen at this scale. And of course, it comes on the back of leaving the EU, which imposed cost for all of us, the global pandemic, which was again driving cost inflation, and now the war in Ukraine. And so the challenges are enormous. And then we bring in, access to people, certainly for my sector, people working within food and farming. It's been very tough, and there's been labour supply shortages throughout, and there continues to be. So it's multifaceted challenges. I think, if I'm honest, we both feel a bit unloved by government at the moment, and hence why we feel the need to work collaboratively together. We all want the same things effectively, and we face into many of the same challenges.
Okay, I mean, it does seem like a major problem, but is there anything that could be done to help, do you think?
I think, when I make the sort of slightly flippant comment about government, they have a big role to play in this. And certainly when I look at other countries, Sweden being one example, they changed a lot of their trading relationships a long time ago, back in the sort of mid-90s. And that had a very detrimental effect on their primary production. And what they have done is very much focus on procurement, on making sure that, schools, hospitals, military in Sweden are buying and sourcing a lot more Swedish food. And that's where I think government has a role. And it's interesting now that Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, as he is now, had one in between, of course, but he made a commitment back in the summer that he wanted to see 50% of locally produced food as part of all procurement. And I also heard at the Oxford Farming Conference, Daniel Zeitner, the shadow farming minister, make the same commitment on behalf of Labour. So I do feel both parties are moving, if you like, in the right direction. And of course, this has to put resource behind it. I mean, I know from your point of view, public sector caterers will be facing into huge challenges about planning menus and affordability. And this, of course, is a big thing going forwards. We don't want to see a two-tier food system. We want to make sure that everyone, whatever budget they are on, has access to high quality British food. So I think government has a role to play in that. And I've always been disappointed in the past that, something that is so fundamental to our daily lives is taken so much for granted. And of course, if you can change the culture around food, and so much of this starts within the procurement, particularly in schools, with children learning to value their food, wasting less. So it's a win-win, I think, for everybody. So that would be a big step in the right direction for government. And also, I think, prioritising both what you are doing and what we are doing. We're a very, very energy hungry sector, and we absolutely, do need help from, we had the energy bill relief scheme. We're now going to have the discount scheme, the ETII. We do need to be focusing on driving down inflation. If we could halve inflation, for instance, that for you, for us, for the whole chain would make a massive difference. But it's out of our control, so we're going to need government to help us with that.
Okay, you mentioned, interestingly, changing the culture around food. What are some of the ways that you as farmers and the catering side of the equation as well can help to make that change?
I think it is about working together. I think it very much is about trying to bring food to the forefront. We've got a big sort of educational arm because we feel that's so important on behalf of our members. We very much want to link agriculture to STEM learning. But I also hear really positive conversations when I'm talking to the opposition party at the moment, very much planning to put food back on the curriculum. Teaching children in primary schools how to cook again. I trained as a chef, so I'm passionate about that because I think that really is a game changer. And all of this, of course, stems from the point of, do we take domestic food security seriously, or are we going to continue to say, well, no, we're a wealthy nation, we'll just import it? So again, back to the Prime Minister, he made those commitments on domestic food security. I do think it absolutely has to be embedded, though. It doesn't just happen. I mean, I know, talking to you, how much your members care about buying British, about buying locally, but it is that affordability point, and so we've got to join all of these dots up.
Okay, now you've made the point that it's a sort of a multifaceted problem, and obviously there are a number of different things that could be done and measures taken. But if I had to put you on the spot and say, well, is there sort of one measure that be taken that you would give priority to, what would you say that would be?
I would love to see the 50% brought in as we count down to an election. It will happen at some stage, and who knows when. But I would love to see all parties committing to a minimum of 50% of locally produced British food. And of course, the Crown Commercial Contract will have to marry up with that. We can't expect people to be able to source British if it is unaffordable. So I'm confident that British food can remain affordable, available. At the moment, certainly in retail, we have the third most affordable food in the world, and that is third to America being first, Singapore that doesn't effectively produce any of its own food, and the UK in third. So at the moment, consumers have got a great deal out there, and this is absolutely within the art of the possible. And the more we can join up trade deals, out of home, retail and procurement, so that we make sure that there are avenues into all of these markets, that is really good for my members. But I think more importantly, it's good for climate change. It's about buying local. It's good for culture, effectively, people valuing their food and how it's being produced. And it supports local business, which is what we all want to see, and jobs and growth going forward. So I'd like to see us join it all up. I know you know what we have been saying on trade deals. I am really worried that agriculture will not be taken seriously, and that will disadvantage us. So the more we can work together, I think, on getting more great British food on British plates, the better.
Yeah, that brings me on to the next point, which was the collaboration between the farming sector and the public sector. It hasn't always been a marriage made in heaven, but there are benefits to that collaboration, aren't there?
Oh, without doubt there are. And I think what we do know now is, having left the EU, whether you agreed with that or not, there is a real need for us to work together. And I guess, to understand the different challenges that we face, and that is only achieved by better lines of communication. At the NFU, we have focused a lot on retail over the years, on holding Tesco's et al. To account. We haven't focused so much on the out-of-home market and procurement in general. And we really are now. Bethan Cowell is leading up all that work for us, working solely in this sector. So our commitment is absolutely there want to be working with you and understanding the challenges, but also collectively together working on the opportunities, because I think a united voice achieves so much more, and we both effectively want the same things.
Okay, and finally, do you see reasons for optimism?
I absolutely do. I mean, one thing that we all need to do is to eat. We might be able to give up other things in our life, having just come through what I would call drier January. Food matters. Food really matters to all of us, and that's not going to go away. And I think, we have a very big population. We have 70 million people, or very nearly, in the UK. So that's a lot of mouths to feed. And I am excited in many ways about the future. And if we can work together, we can hopefully excite others on this journey, because I personally don't think anything is more important than the food that we eat. And I've seen over many years myself, as my life as a chef, how transformational it can be. So I really look forward to working together going forwards. And as I say, hopefully, having more British food on more British plates.
Okay, I think we can all say amen to that. So Minette Batters, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.